Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm very kindly joined by a man of Son Until I Die, Andy Cammis. Andy, how are you, mate?
I'm all right. Yourself?
You're good, yeah. So we just recorded the Phil Parkinson video. This should be up a few days after that. Getting straight into it. How did you get into football and earlier Sunderland memories?
Oh, early Sunderland memories. In my first game, probably went with my dad. Last time we were in Division 3, many years ago in the 80s. Brighton Hove Albion at home. Sunderland won 1-0. Paul Lemon scored. Sunderland win the league. Brighton finished second. So, that was my first game.
Pretty much all downhill from there since.
It's been a bumpy road. Lots of ups, lots of downs, but lots of good memories at the same time, and it's been experience, isn't it? As you'll know yourself, being a young Sunderland fan.
Yeah.
Be an experience for you, but it is what it is. Being a Sunderland fan, you pick your side, and that's it. That's who you follow. You don't change your colours. You stay with them, and that's what we've done up and down the country. Obviously, my little lad comes with us now. I used to go with my dad, and I go with my mates on the bus and all that, on the supporters bus, and love it. Absolutely love it. I'm getting away from it.
I think character building is the phrase that comes to mind.
That's one phrase. Another one's mug.
Just moving on to Netflix. I'm just wondering, how did Netflix approach you about appearing on the show?
It was the summer of 2017, and we played Celtic at home. Pre-season friendly when we got absolutely thrashed.
Yeah.
Literally just walking to the ground. I was just walking past the fan zone. Me, the wife, and a couple of little ones. We didn't have all the kids with us, and as you know from the series, I've got 4 kids, and then my nephew comes with us as well. Just walking the ground. There was a film crew there. Didn't know who they were from or anything. They just said, "Can we do an interview?" I said, "Can you tell us who you're from?" They said, "No." Just looking to do a show on Sunderland. Would be interested if just do an interview, and I was like, "Yeah, no worries." Did an interview with them, and they said that was the best one we've had the day. Then they give us the form, filled it in. That's when I saw it was full 73. Filled the form in, signed it. Probably about 5 weeks later, I got a phone call. I worked for BT Openreach. I was at the top of a telegraph pole, and I saw the phone, and I was like, "I'm not answering that up here." And then I got down, there was a text message, and it was full 73 again. Via texts and all that, and I run them back, and it just went from there. Really, about a week later, went down to meet them at the ground, and then they started coming around my house with the cameras and stuff, and it just took off from there. Do you know what I mean? Probably took over my life for about 2 years, to be fair.
Yeah. Did they offer you anything in the deal, or was it entirely voluntary?
Entirely voluntary.
Yeah. No.
I had this at a service station last year. I was travelling down to Wickham away last year, and Newcastle bus pulled in at the same time. And it was quite heated.
Yeah, I remember that.
Police turned up and that. But there was 2 young Newcastle lads, and they must have only been about maybe 14, 15. And they asked us that question. They came up and asked us, did you get paid for it? The answer is no. I never received a penny off them for anything I did with it. But I did just say I received a few gifts along the way. So, but cash wise, I received nothing. But I did not so much myself. It was more the kids. They got shirts. One of them's got a McGeady shirt signed on the back and all framed, hanging up in his bedroom and stuff like that. Because obviously, favourite player's McGeady. We got a few tickets here and there, but that was it. There was no cash exchange hands at any time.
No, I just thought it was it's something that I've always wondered. Was it So what made you want to go on Netflix then? Did you want to show to people how much Sunderland meant to the fans? I think you represent the fans when you come across as someone who is just absolutely loves the football club.
Yeah, it was just the way they pitched it to us, to be fair. I mean, at first I didn't know it was for Netflix. They didn't tell us that until it got to the back end of the first series. They just said it was going on TV. Said it was going to be a series. It was going to be so many episodes. But they never actually said it's going to be for Netflix. And then one of them told us just on the side. He said, "Don't say anything." He said, "It's going to be Netflix." And I didn't have Netflix at the time, so I had to subscribe. But yeah, I didn't know it was going to be Netflix or anything like that. And to go on the show, I just saw it as you know, they approached me. They had asked us to do it. I saw it as an opportunity, and to be honest with you, I quite enjoyed doing it for the time I did it. You know, the guys who come round and that, they're now Sunderland fans. We had 2 different crews over the 2 seasons, actually. We had the season 1 crew and the season 2 crew. The season 1 crew, one of the guys actually met us down at Charlton last year for one of the away games, because they're all London lads, basically, majority of them. He's a Chelsea fan, rocked up in his Sunderland shirt, and you know, he came in the away end and loves it. You know, he's a massive Sunderland fan now, so they've all changed alliances, if you like.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's the power of Sunderland. Like the documentary is, if you go on the Sunderland YouTube channel and watch the highlights they upload and videos like that, there's fans from all over the world watching it, and like there's people who have spoken to me on social media before and said, "Oh, I watched the Sunderland Till I Die documentary, and like I am a Wolves fan or a Chelsea fan or however, but like I've got a real soft spot for Sunderland now as well." And there's a YouTuber on the Sunderland scene, the Mad Mistake. You might have heard of him. He made one appearance on the Sunderland Till I Die documentary, but I seem to remember one saying that like the footage recorded was loads. I'm just wondering, from someone who was like one of the regulars on, how intense was it? Were they around every week? Was it multiple times a week? Did you have meetings about it?
It never had any meetings. It was loads. From what was shown and what was actually filmed, it was loads. I'll give you one example. The game where in season 1, actually, we played Derby County away.
Yeah.
We win like 3-1, something like that. Fletcher actually scored that game. Yeah. And it was raining all day. They came to my house first thing in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Travelled down, set my car up, put cameras in the car, microphones all over the place in the car. Travelled all the way down to Derby with us. Around the ground, followed us around the ground. Inside the ground, there was a camera next to us the whole game, and they used about 15 seconds of all of that. So from a full day's filming, they used like 15 seconds. You know, there's a bit, it's a bit mix and match. You know, when they show some of the away stuff. So at the start of season 2, they actually show us in the crowd, and it's making out that it's Wimbledon. Is it Wimbledon the way we played? I think
when
Cattermole scored. Yeah. So they make an out as though it's Wimbledon. They show me in the crowd and everything else. The crowd shot. They actually show us Bristol Rovers, and they travelled with us all day that day as well on the coach.
God.
But the day of Wimbledon, I was actually on a beach in Benidorm, so I definitely wasn't there. You know what I mean?
So you were sat on a beach in Benidorm instead of witnessing the Lee Cattermole masterclass down London.
That's the one,
Yeah.
That's the one. On the plus side, though, I always used to back Lee Cattermole to score first, because I knew it was going to come sooner or later, and so I won a bit of money either. At that time, but his odds slashed after that game. After he put 2 in, his odds slashed, so I stopped putting money on him after that.
I bet you've lost a considerable sum of money if you put that bet on for every game, though, Lee Cattermole to score first.
I was just a couple of daft quid, to be fair. So, you know, but at the time, his odds were like 40, 50 to 1. You know, it's because he never scored, did he?
Yeah, it works out. Obviously, you mentioned there that like the recording was intense and there was something to do with you all day to use seconds of the footage. But you say you largely enjoyed the experience. Was there any ever time that it got irritating or any negative experiences because of?
Yeah, there was one incident, just one. I'll just clear this up now, right? The guys who filmed with us came part of the family. You know, they used to come round. The Christmas stuff you see, that's actually Christmas Day.
Yeah,
I've had people ask us that. I've asked people ask us, did you put your tree up in March for them? No, that was Christmas Day. That was with the family. They come round. They had Christmas dinner with us. You know, every time they come round, if we were having a meal, they had the meal with us. You know, the Christmas Day actually came about because I found out one of them was staying up here to film with the players on Christmas Day morning. Then he was going to go back to the hotel, and he was going to have Christmas on his own for the rest of the day, and I wasn't going to have that. So I told him to get around my house. So that's when they said, well, can we film around on Christmas Day? And I was like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So that's where that come about from. But as for irritable ones, they brought, towards the end of season 1, they brought this guy up from London, and he was just an absolute and total and utter fucking prick. His knee getting away from it. And you can ask any of them, you know, Michelle, Ian, Lynn, all them who were in it. You can ask them, and they've all got the same account of this guy, and I can't even remember his name. And we were doing the tattoo scene. the tattoo, actually, we filmed 5 times in the tattoo studio, 3 hours at a time when I was getting the sleeve done. And the last time we went in there was on an evening, and he came in and he wanted to be behind the tattooist, and he kept knocking the tattooist as he was tattooing him, and then he was trying to get a reaction out of us and everything else, and he stopped filming and stopped where we stopped it, me and the tattooist Dan, and we just asked him to leave, like. And the next day I had Suits, who he was the lead director. I spoke to Suits the next day about it, and a couple of guys, and obviously they apologised to us, but it wasn't their fault. And then that guy apologised to us, but I just said, look, I don't want to work with him again. But the rest of the guys, absolutely brilliant. And like I say, they just became part of the family.
Yeah, good. I mean, good to hear. I was just wondering if like there was ever any point where you were maybe like walking to the match with your son and whatever, and you're thinking like, oh God, what could do without the cameras just for one game, or did you enjoy the spotlight?
It was the relegation, the day we got relegated, and I think it was Darren Bent scored that.
Yeah, against Burton.
They weren't actually with us in the ground, but they were texting us. One of the guys, Stevie, and he said, "Can you meet us outside?" And I said, "Stevie, I just can't, mate. I just want to go home. Just absolutely, I'm not putting." They begged us, they phoned us and begged us. Like, I met them outside the ground, did an interview, but it was never shown, thankfully, because it was quite hard at the time. To be fair, did a lot of stuff with my dad in the show as well, and that wasn't shown, but they kindly sent us the clips for that. So I've actually got them on WhatsApp off one of the guys on my phone. So just like as a keepsake sort of thing, But we did absolutely loads of filming, and you'd be surprised how much we do and how much is actually shown.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Obviously you were one of many people who were on the show as regulars, and you just mentioned a few of them there. How was your relationship with the rest of them? Obviously there was the people at the club who was on. There was Peter Farrer, the taxi driver. There was a few others. Like, have you got a friendship or a bond with any of them, or have you not spoken to any of them?
We had Netflix, or Full 73, should I say. They put like a Christmas party on for us, an end of season party as well, where everyone was invited who was in the show. Don't really know Peter Farrer that well, if I'm being honest. Maybe he's met him once or twice at them places. But got a really good relationship with Michelle Barraclough and Ian, who they go to the match with. Obviously, you see them on the show as well. Lynn, many times, seeing her, knocking about another drink with her and that. And yeah, we've got good relationships with them. We're all friends on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. And yeah, but actually, the Wembley stuff that you actually see, we actually all sat next to each other.
All right.
It's just different angles. You just cannot see it. And literally, like I see her, Michelle, every time she sees her, she gives a cuddle. And I see Michelle and Ian all the time at the away games. And they're great. We always shake hands with Ian when we see each other, have a big crack on. Michelle, like I say her, she's great. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Obviously someone who, moving on slightly, someone who came into the club for what would have been the second season. Do you want to ask your opinion on the current owners at the moment? Obviously Parkinson has just been sacked. I don't think anyone likes them. But to me, if you're looking at the documentary as a whole, I actually think Charlie Methven didn't come across that badly. I know a lot of people say maybe he was a bit arrogant or whatever, and a lot of people didn't like his treatment of the staff. But just to you as a fan, more than anything else, who watched it back, just from the documentary alone, and not the other instances. I know he had some WhatsApp messages that got leaked the other day. I've seen him saying them and things like that. What was your perception of Donald and Methven in particular, on the documentary?
What was your perception? Do you like them or not?
My perception? Well, if we're looking at just the documentary as a whole, I thought Charlie Methven came across quite well. I thought he came across as someone, well, Stewart Donald as well, Methven in particular, someone who came into a football club, which was a failing business, which was chucking money away, and it simply wasn't sustainable, and there was loads of problems. And I've just been watching it back the last few days to prepare for this slightly, and it seems to me as if Charlie Methven just wanted to turn the club around and actually make us sustainable and sort out the problems. There was one example of the career chamber, was something like £300,000 a year was getting spent on that, and the only person to use it in the championship season was Martin Bain because of his bad back. Just things like that to me Charlie Metheny and Stewart Donald, they came across as people who had a real drive and a real ambition for the club, and they just wanted to change the way it was. That's my perception. I'm just wondering, just as a fan above anything else, not really someone who's appeared on the show, just as a fan, like, what was your perception of them?
Yeah, I agree with you. From that perception when they're on the show, I think Stewart and Charlie, they come across as two guys who want to turn it around, who want to make it a success. And you've got to remember, these two guys are successful businessmen. At the end of the day, they know how to run a company, and that's what they want to do. And people say, well, they're trying to run a football club like a business. Well, in this day and age, unfortunately, it is a business, and it's big business and it's worth a lot of money. And they came across like that to me. Obviously, I know there was some people not too happy the way he spoke to certain people, but maybe he wasn't getting what he was paying for out of those people at the same time, and there was maybe obviously that young lass Sophie, she left the show, she left the company during the show and everything else. And I think maybe it was the way, like I say, it just didn't have the staff doing what he wanted to do, and I think that's why people think they talk badly. But if you go in their shoes and they weren't performing to the right standard, would you be happy? Knowing that you're losing lots of money every week. So you've got to see it, a bit of empathy and see it from both sides of the story, really.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting thing. I like to speak about everyone who I meet. I like to talk about that because a lot of people don't like the way Methven came across. But I feel as if some fans forget that, well, the club is a business. There's money coming in and there's money going out, and we've only got so much money to spend. And if you want to be a successful football club, you've got to be sustainable, and you can't just keep writing a check off to the rich man in America who signs it off, especially when they came in and they've got a lot less money. Aside from Netflix, obviously Charlie Methven, there was some messages on WhatsApp that got leaked last night. I presume you've seen them?
I haven't seen them. Actually.
Oh, well, obviously it's of course all allegedly. I was half considering making a video on it. I decided against it in the end. I guess we can move on from that really if you haven't seen them. But opinion of them two since they came in, are you Stewart Donald, Charlie Methven out?
Are you a fan or not?
Myself?
Yeah.
Obviously not. I was Stewart Donald in right up until there's been a few things released where, for me, it's things like his little agreements that he hasn't announced to the fans, little small business agreements that are clearly done to benefit him in the long term, the way he's taken money out of the club for himself that he hasn't told us about, and it's the things like he's, when he came in, he was all for appearing on the Roker Report and tweeting us fans back and coming in the stadium with the fans, but as soon as it went badly, instead he's just went completely silent and hid. I thought that's my perception of it.
I don't really know Charlie that well outside the show. I met him on the premiere of the first series. That was at the Empire in Sunderland, and he came across the room to meet us and shook me hand. He knew my name because he'd seen the full series and everything else. I'm not actually in episode 1 of season 1, and he came over and introduced himself, had a photo of me, my lad, and that. And that was the only time I've ever met him, to be fair. And he was a nice enough guy. Stewart, I'm quite good friends with Stewart actually, which come to shock a few people, and I'm not one of these people that's going to slag him or anything like that. He's been absolutely brilliant to me. He's been brilliant to my son. He's been brilliant to my wife. His hospitality wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he's got bad press. I think he's been slandered by fanzines within the club. I understand he's not everyone's cup of tea. He became really good friends with a friend of mine who I go to football with, and that's how I became friends with Stewart. Not as good as what my friend is, but I'm still friends with Stewart. I've met his fiancée. I've met his son George, his oldest son. He's a really, really good lad as well. I've been in his box at the Stadium of Light when we played the Dutch side pre-season last year. MK Dons, when Gooch scored the screamer, I was in the box at MK Dons with Stewart and his entourage down there, his fiancée, his son, and all them that down there. Richard Hill was in there as well. He was good actually just to talk to him, because obviously he got a lot of bad press about the way he was doing the transfers and that. But if you talk to him about football, he's a knowledgeable bloke, like, to be fair, you know what I mean? I just don't think everything's playing in black and white, and the slander he's getting, I don't think it's fair. He does so much for like the BLC. He does so much for the mental health hub that's running down there, which is absolutely fantastic, which is obviously run by the BLC. And they've supported that throughout, and we're one of the first football clubs in the country to have, you know, stuff like that. And they just wanted to do stuff from the stadium. You know, we've now got the rotor end. You know, they've put stuff inside the stadium to make it feel more homely rather than just bricks when we walk inside the ground and stuff like that. So, and I know a lot of what's gone on outside that's never been reported on. I'm not going to talk about it here.
That's fine.
But you know, there's always more than one side to a story, you know, and maybe Stewart just got pushed to the point where he had to do what was right for him and right for his family.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you're defending there, and clearly you've got positive experience with him. I think my only main problem with him is he seems to me to come across as a little bit dishonest and maybe someone who appeared to wear his heart on his sleeve and be this genuine man who wanted to turn things around, but in reality, it was all a big ploy and a big PR stunt. But you know, maybe you've got a different perspective on him, and that's just.
I'll tell you what, Jack. I'm the chairman of a charity, East Down Veterans Trust. Stewart came and did a talk-in for us. Then he donated a box that we raffled off to raise money for the charity. You know, we were actually raffling off a signed Sunderland shirt as well from with Kevin Phillips' signature and everything on at the time from back in about 97, 98. You know, the gold one we had at the time, and we were about 50 numbers short, and we were selling. It was 200 numbers on the thing, and we were about 50 short to raffle it. He bought all 50 numbers. You know, so his charity work from that side for the region's been great, I think. You know, and that's one thing that gets missed. So I've got to go off my own experiences of Stewart. And my own experiences of Stewart is he's a really nice bloke, and you know, it's always good to go on the piss with a millionaire.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you know him on a lot more personal level. I've never met Stewart Donald. I've met Charlie Methven twice, I believe. And I mean, I've made it clear I actually don't have a huge problem with Methven, apart if you exclude a couple of the things he said in the past about Sunderland fans that haven't stuck right with us. I don't have a huge problem with Methven. I think he's one thing me and my dad always say is if Charlie Methven had been in charge of the club, or at least in running with the club before he was, maybe we wouldn't be in such a mess we are, because he clearly is so hands-on. Of course, my experience with Stewart Donald is entirely different to yours. You know, I've never met him, and my opinion is only really off the news and things like that. And you know, there is two sides to every story. You're saying there with him, the work he's been doing for your charity and the mental health hub and things along those lines. That doesn't get reported, but what will get reported is the things he has done. To me, there's a couple of things that haven't stuck right with me. I'm not entirely sure if they're all true. A lot of them are only rumours, but there seems to be a couple of times there's been a little bit dodgy dealings. But you know, maybe that is speculation as well. I was going to ask you, so far this season, I would imagine you are of the opinion that so far this season we have been below par or below expectation.
Yeah, I thought like I said to you on that other interview we did about Party going, I thought the first 10 games, I thought we started the season really strong. You know, I thought the first game was Hull in the, I think it was the league. Was it the League Cup we played them in?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they knocked us out on penalties at the Stadium of Light. I thought we started really strong. I mean, we played them off the park for a side that's just been relegated. And I know they're doing well in the league at the moment, but we actually played them off the park. You know, he had Will Grigg looking really strong, you know, wanting to get involved. He was getting down the channels. You know, he was looking really good. Probably the best we'd seen him, unfortunately, without the goals. And across the side, we were looking really good. Lee Burge was looking strong in goal, brought Bailey right back in. He was looking really good. Obviously, questions are always asked about Tom Flanagan, but I thought Tom was playing really well. You know, across the back, we looked solid. And then we didn't concede the goal in open play for about, I think it was about 10 games or something like that, wasn't it?
I'm not sure how long it was, but I think
it was a long time though.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah, and we were looking really strong, and then I really fancied us. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, it just seems to have gone Pete Tom. The problem we got is we kind of score goals. You know, and I actually saw a really good tweet yesterday from Conor Bromley. He does the rotary report and stuff like that. He used to work at the club. And he says, I think it was the last 3 or 4 games, we've only averaged 3 shots on target. You know, and that tells its own story.
Awful, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, 3 shots on target, and that's the problem. We're just not scoring goals. And to go from the likes of Greg and O'Brien, who were looking really good at the start of the season, now they don't even get a look in. And we stuck back. We looked really stale again. We've got Charlie White up front again. Obviously scored a few goals. He's doing really well on that front.
5, I think, so far this season.
Aye, that's right. Yeah, and so he's doing really good on that front. But we just seem a bit stale going forward now. You know, Luke 19 going to centre half was a bit of a questionable one for me. I mean, I like Luke. He's a top egg. He's he's top lads. Sent me a Christmas present a few years ago. So yeah, he's a really, really good lad. You know, and I just don't think that suited Luke, putting him at centre half. I know he's strong in the air, but just a few things started becoming questionable. You know, the substitutions, like Friday night, Fleetwood, 3 substitutions. We could have used 5. We used 2 in the last few minutes. You know, you've got young lads, Embleton sat on the bench. You know, you've got Jack Diamond sat on the bench. Pre-season, we were screaming about Dan Neil. We haven't seen him. You know, and it's things like that you question. You know, and it's like, and it's not as if he's getting any pressure off the fans, because there's no fans allowed in the stadium.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know if you watch them, Mike, but obviously I do the preview and the review shows, and I've made it clear on my thoughts on Parkinson's substitutions. As much as I'm one of the only people in Sunderland, I think, who was willing to give Parkinson just a little bit longer. I know you seem to be on the fence as well. You can't defend these substitutions. I was going to lead on there to, like, obviously you mentioned our average 3 shots on target and our lack of being able to score goals. Clearly, that's probably the main problem as to why we haven't been hitting expectations. But if you had to put the responsibility down to someone for why we haven't quite been hitting expectations this season, who would it go down to?
Who hasn't been hitting expectations? It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, you know, you look across, you've got Grant Ledbetter he's come back in, he's looking like a different player from what he did last year. So you kind of point the finger at the likes of Grant, Denver, Luke 19, obviously the back lads, Bailey Wright and that, they look good. I'm not a massive fan of Remy Matthews, if I'm being honest. I can't understand why Lee Burge got dropped the way he did. And then I think you'd have to look at the strikers. You know, I think obviously brought Danny Graham back in. I'm one of the few people that was actually at Everton when he scored that day.
Yeah, one and only goal in Sunderland.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he's good at holding the ball up and that, but he's not really a 20-year goal scorer. You know, I don't think you could say the same about Charlie White. I don't think he's going to get you 20 odd goals. Or O'Brien's the same. You know, he hasn't got a record of scoring 20 plus goals a season before he came to us. And then you're looking at Will Grigg, who's never really scored for us, really, has he? You know, he's never really kicked on from the reputation he had when we paid all that money for him. So then you're looking around, and so you'd have to say, for me personally, the goalkeeper Matthews, I'm not a fan of, and up the other end of the pitch. I mean, Gooch on the bench at the start of the season, he should have been starting, you know, and he proves that, you know, some of the goals he scores. And hopefully, there's a little Irish fella there we can bring back in with just a touch of magic, like.
Yeah,
we need it.
Yeah, so he can't come in until, is it the 4th of January or something like that, because of some registration rule?
Oh, he's not registered?
I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I was watching, I don't know if you watch.
He hasn't got a squad number, has he?
I don't know if you watch SFC Fan TV, but they were just saying on their live stream of the week that, I think it was Dino said that you can't play until the 4th of January because of some registration rule if you don't sign before some point in the season. I don't know what it is, but I think it's some technical rule is above the fitness. Do you think that the squad Parkinson was given at the start of this season was good enough to demand top 2?
It was his squad, though, wasn't it? You know, he's the guy who's gone out and said, let's bring these ones in.
But if you look at some of the players that we could have brought in, I mean, names that spring to mind to me are Marcus Maddison, Nangelay, Garbett, Fraser, Dimitri Mitchell. Like, the list goes on of like 3 agents that we could have brought in only. And there was 2 months from us realising our fate was in League One as to the salary cap coming in. Do you think if we'd maybe just, like, so to speak, bite the bullet, so to speak, and brought in those players, that maybe Parkinson would have had a much better chance, or would you not say that?
What makes you think that Parkinson wanted them players, though? You know, I know people say their names like, just give us. But if you look at the likes of Marcus Madison, right? I was in Peterborough when he absolutely raped us last season.
I was there, yeah, as well.
You know, he's an awesome footballer. But if Parkinson doesn't want McGeady in his side, then why would he want Maddison in his side?
I mean,
that's the thing that gets us on that one. That's the question I asked myself on that one. If you didn't want McGeady, why would you want Maddison? You know, because you're saying, I know that's what they're saying about the backroom stuff and everything with McGeady and stuff like that. But a lot of it with McGeady was he turned around and said he's not a team player, he doesn't track back. Well, Maddison doesn't really track back. You know, he's a lot like McGeady from a certain perspective. So
I think Maddison's just one example, really. Like he's one of many. I mean, Scott Fraser, Nangelay, and Garbutt were the main three for me. I was thinking like we started the season with one fully fit, well, one senior left back at all. We could have probably done with another centre back. Obviously, we've ended up putting Luke O'Nien there to play three at the back, and Scott Fraser. I think centre mid's probably got to be one of our weakest areas in the team in terms of quality. Scott Fraser could have added that a little bit. I was just thinking, like, to answer your question of, you asked me something along the lines of, like, would Parkinson want those players? I would say, well, what manager wouldn't want players that are going to clearly strengthen the squad? So all I was saying to you was, do you think that in any way that potentially Parkinson didn't start the season with the squad that he wanted, or not?
It's a tough one, isn't it? You know, because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But for me, the way I look at it is, you know, you're the manager. You know, you say who you want, and the owner should go and get them.
Yeah.
So if the owner hasn't gone and get them, then that's another debate that everyone's got to have, isn't it? But you know, he's come out, Parkinson. He said he wanted these players, so that's his squad at the end of the day. You know, and the manager at times. I mean, if you look when Peter Reid came in to Sunderland Football Club, right, we didn't have a great squad. Yeah, but his management of a team got us promoted with next to nothing the next season, like extra coming into what he had. So it's up to a football manager to find the best system and the way to play those players. And maybe that's where he was lacking as well.
Yeah, I mean, at times I just look at the squad and think, if we added another 2 to 3 players on top of what we've got, Parkinson would have a lot more to work with. And to me, there's been a lot of calls, and I've been one of them myself, of saying, just change it for a game or two, maybe go forward back, maybe try play through the middle as opposed to constantly going out wide, maybe don't play target man football as much, and maybe try and play it along the floor a bit. But if you don't have the players to do that, then you can't be expected to do that. I
think the one thing he should have brought in, Jack, you know, and it screams out everybody, is he should have brought a striker in who was going to hit the back of the net. You know, and I think if you brought that in, everything else, you'd look at it and you'd say, do you know what? Actually, we've got a decent squad. So if you had a striker who was going to score you 20 goals this season, I don't think the rest of the team would really come into criticism, because them first 10 games where, all right, we drew a few here and there, but if you had that striker who was going to hit the back of the net, surely they would have turned into wins all of a sudden, you know?
But is that down to Parkinson, or is that down to the board for not bringing him in?
I think it's down to both, to be honest. You know, Parkinson should have been screaming it, and the board should have been bent over backwards to deliver it.
I agree with you on that. I just think that maybe Parkinson was saying, look, I need a goal scorer, and you aren't giving us one. And maybe the board would just turn around and say, well, you're not getting one. You know, I thought, you know, we can't provide you with one. I personally, I think that's probably the way it went. Just conscious of time.
I think we'll find out, you know. I think we'll find that out, you know, in weeks to come, because, you know, before long, Phil Parkinson will be on the Football League show or something like that, and those questions will get asked of him, you know. And the person he was dealing with was the new CEO, wasn't
it? Jim Rodwell, yeah.
Jim Rodwell, you know. And if he turns around and says, Jim Rodwell, I told him I wanted a 20-goal striker, and he wasn't providing it, then, you know, questions need to be asked from the fans again. And that'll come down to the likes of, you know, the Red and White Army when they go in with the BLC and everything to the fans meeting and everything else, and then ask that question to Jim Rodwell. Well, Phil Parkinson said he asked you for this. Why didn't you deliver it?
Yeah, and that'll be very interesting to hear. You know, I'm sure Parkinson will speak up. Just a little bit conscious of time. I would love to keep going with what we're going. I think we're having a great discussion here. But you mentioned the lack of goals up front. What would your front line be if you could choose?
From what we've got now?
Yeah, out of the players we've got now, yeah. Like including the youth players and everyone, and you can, you know, alter the formation and everything.
Are we keeping the same, or are we altering the formation? Are we?
Yeah,
I tell you what, we'll keep Parkinson's formation. So he liked the front three, didn't he?
Oh well, either like a front three or a two with a one behind. Yeah, was one of those.
So we'll go 2 and 1 behind. I would have had Grigg in Wyke. Grigg, Wyke, stroke Graham is my front two, and then Maguire just behind. Maguire, stroke Gucci just behind. It's difficult because I'd like Gucci in all the time. I like Maguire in all the time, but then again, I'd like McGeady in.
Yeah,
can we include McGeady?
I mean, do you then maybe change it to like what we had under Jack Ross with? Although I wasn't really a huge fan of Jack Ross. I mean, I was giving him a lot more time than all the other fans, but do we maybe switch to something like that where you go 4-2-3-1 and then you've essentially got 4 attackers on the pitch and you can fit McGeady, Maguire, Gooch and one of the goal scorers in? I was just thinking if you could come up with a goal scoring formula, like what's it going to be?
Yeah, fair one. But I think if we went back to it was like a flat back forward, Jack Ross. I think that would give you a chance to push the likes of Denver Hume higher up the pitch.
Would you play him as like a left midfielder as opposed to left wing back?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's better going forward than Warriors coming back. Not saying he's a bad defender or anything like that. He's still a young lad. He's still got a lot to learn and everything else. But I definitely, his pace, he gets at people. He can get past people. He can put the ball in the box. He knows whether he scored a few goals. He knows where the back of the net is. He's not scared to have a shot, as we saw on Friday night. He had a few shots Friday night. So yeah, I definitely play him higher at the park. I like to see McGeady come back in now that the manager's gone. I make no disclaimers on that whatsoever. I'd love to see McGeady come back in because I think he's a match winner.
As we all, as I would have thought.
And if we kind of play him until January, then you're playing for the under-21s and get a match fit between now and January.
And you do absolutely everything you can to get him in, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then you're looking the likes of Maguire. I'd play probably, maybe Denver one side, McGeady the other side, or Gooch, fit Gooch in there somehow, and we've got plenty of options. It's just that last one, isn't it? It's that one that's going to put the ball in the back of the net, isn't it?
We've got everything else.
We're screaming for him, and we love that up here. We love a goal scorer, don't we? And we idolise them as the likes of Phillips. I mean, Gary Rowell. You go to the match and there's lots of young lads. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, but there's lots of like 18, 19-year-olds singing about Gary Rowell who've never seen him play because he's idolised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack. Say that again.
I feel attacked here. it's just a song. It's iconic, isn't it? It's just one of those perfect ones.
But that's just an example of how he's actually idolised within Sunderland, same as Kevin Phillips. Yeah, exactly. And if we had someone like that now in 20 years' time, when you're my age, you'd be looking back and saying, 20? "Wow, that guy who scored right." All right, 15. You'd say, he's getting idolised now because he scored absolutely shitloads of goals for us.
Yeah. I've got absolutely loads more questions written down, but we're desperately running out of time. I'm going to ask you 2 final questions. If you could pick your all-time Sunderland five-a-side team, how would it look?
Five-a-side. Right, we'll go Tommy Sorensen in goal. 5 outfield players who are just going to run all over the place. You've got to have Kevin Ball in there, haven't you?
Got to, yeah.
So we'll have Ball, we'll have Gabbiadini, we'll have Phillips.
What are you talking?
Aye, got to be, and it's 5-a-side.
You wouldn't get on with Phil Parkinson, would you?
Throw Julio Walker in there as well, and we'll have John Keir.
Well, very attacking. And what one final thing I've got to ask you is, how's the tattoo going? How's the sleeve going? Is it on track still? Is it complete?
It's done from the elbow up. Like,
done?
You have to be able to see it.
Yeah, go on, show us. Yeah, why not? Good to see.
So
done. Yeah. Listen, mate, you've been a class guest. I think you've offered us some really interesting talking points with Stewart Donald. I'm sure there'll be people listening to that. Really appreciate
it. On Twitter later.
No, I think people appreciate. I mean, I really appreciate getting a different side of the story because I've only seen what's been reported, and clearly you've offered a different perspective. As I say, listen, mate, you've been a class guest. Thanks for coming on. It's been an honour. Been really good speaking to you.
It's been awesome, Jack. Thanks for inviting us on, mate. Appreciate it.
And thanks to everyone watching the video as well. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. All that stuff. It's always appreciated. I'll see you later.